All right, today we have a super loaded pod. You are not going to want to miss this one. We are talking, is pickleball in its Lance Armstrong era? Are the players you laud about to be known as the biggest cheaters in the game? We sure think we know the answer to that question. We're also doing a recap of the past 12 days on the road. We've been in Dallas. You're not going to want to miss all the deets on Major League Pickleball and, of course, Nationals. There were definitely some biggest winners and biggest losers, which is the newest segment of our pod. Buckle in. Here we go. It's Pod 27.
You're tuned in now to this pickleball life. I'm K-Dubs and JILLYB is my wife. She's the pro and I've got the filler. She's sweet to me, but on the court she's a killer. Unadulterated and efficiently bringing you the best and worst things in PB. Tell your friends and stay for another. And no one loves us more than your mother. One thing's for sure, one hit and you're addicted. Grab a pal, grab a court, don't resist it. So click subscribe, let's go, let's get cracking. Things on gun, let's go, let's get laughing. This pickleball life.
Welcome to your favorite comedy podcast, Masked as a Pickleball Podcast with...
I'm your girl, JILLYB, aka Jill Braverman, top 20 in the world, pro pickleballer, former CEO of Duper, former chief of staff of Major League Pickleball, and co-host of this Pickleball Life podcast.
Not to be forgotten, me, K-Dubs, the other half, or as Jill likes to refer, the better 7/8. I prefer the better 1/8, but you know, whatever gets the job done. Founder of PB Gods, Duper 4.09, and it's Pod 27. We are back in desert heaven.
Thank goodness, because 12 days in Dallas gave me an eye twitch, literally.
Are we allowed to say we've escaped Dallas hell to get back to our desert heaven?
I think that's fair considering the past 12 days.
Let's be truthful, though. There was one real winning in Dallas for us personally. We're going to get into some other winners and losers, but the biggest win of Dallas is...
Can I guess? The food.
The food
was amazing.
Yeah, like every place we went was delicious.
Awesome. So quick catch up. Thank you so much for the enormous groundswell of support that we've received from the last investigative journalism style podcast that we did. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to fellow pro players who've reached out. Thank you to sponsors of the PPA tour that reached out to share their experience with the tour. And many other endemic big influencers and decision makers listened to that last pod. And just thank you. Thank you for the support. It's not easy to speak our truth, but it's kind of all we have. So to give you guys an update, we have not received, Kristin or me, any outreach directly about the pod from the PPA. I have received no modifications or requests for corrections. I know Leia was reached out to by Connor Ogden, the CEO of the PPA tour, multiple times right when the pod went out. She did not get on a call with him. She said she was busy training.
Which is also weird because it was our pod, not Leia's.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So,
do they just think Leia's more, approachable than you? They know what they're gonna get from you or something?
I don't know.
You were approached by Don Stanley, though.
I was approached by Don Stanley, the head referee, who, I feel bad for him. He had a lot going on that week, obviously with Nationals, and he just said, "Hey, I heard that there was a voice recording. Can you please take it down?" And I said, "Look, I'm happy to hop on a call with you to discuss further." And he just said, "I know I have no rights here. I'm just asking you to take it down."
Yeah, honestly, he must not have listened to it because I don't even think he came off bad. He was just reporting the story as it happened.
So I agree with you in that regard regarding Don Stanley. And, if anything we said was false on the last podcast, I would have received an attorney cease and desist. Or I would have received at least hey, can you guys make corrections on your next podcast? And I've received no response whatsoever from the PPA tour. And I think that silence is deafening in some ways.
Yeah, I just think it keeps coming back to this is so silly. What are we really saying? They need to write the rules down and they need to enforce them. And they need to use the one kind of testing that is as close as we currently have to good.
I think we're saying more than that. We're saying don't lie.
That's true.
It's a little different.
Well, that's my point, is that it should be as simple as what I said, but instead it's a story. It's salacious because they continue to lie about things that are
so unnecessary to lie about, but it's
why
all
are
in the
we even
effort to
here?
protect certain players, and we're going to talk about that
Exactly,
today too. And we've got to
exactly.
remove the favoritism that is so painfully apparent on the tour. I will say the PPA staff was very cordial to me at Nationals. The only suspicious thing was going from a streamed court to a non-streamed court with Tyra, I believe, in our first round. But they were also at the same time changing the schedule due to rain, so it's hard to say if that was intentional or not, although one of the PPA's favorite MOs is removing your airtime when you're on their SHIT list. If I spell a bad word versus say a bad word, I'm pretty sure it's the same effect. So
Yeah, I mean, if you could do it in front of Coco, I think it's safe.
Okay, my niece. The one thing that was worth noting is Connor Pardo went out of his way prior to us releasing the last podcast to tell me that the PPA, were going to keep the PPL guys at Nationals. So the PPL guys are the ones that do the testing for MLP, and that they were going to stay on site and work through Nationals. However, it turns out that the PPL team, Gary in particular, stayed for absolutely nothing. Of course, USA Pickleball apparently wanted nothing to do with him or the PPL. They said they had their own testing protocols on site. More on that later. And you have to remember, USA Pickleball is a governmental bureaucracy. Ergo, innovation or change is anathema to their core values of stagnation, procrastination, and deflection. And I don't mean deflection testing, because I wish they had that. I wish that was a core value.
Yeah. It's really, at the end of the day, all about how hot the ball comes off the paddle. Like, all the rest of this is just like word soup, as you like to say.
Well, so more on that right now. When I asked about paddle testing protocols for Nationals, because I knew I was going to play Anna Lee Waters and Catherine, assuming Tyra and I beat Lauren Stratman and Vivian Glozman, which we did not even get a chance to compete against them, and we'll talk about that later. So I wanted to have all of my ducks in a row because, of course, I was going to challenge Anna Lee's totally illegal paddle, right? After witnessing the paddle tech that Irina was playing a month ago.
Right. At some point, I feel like even though we know these paddle testing protocols are a joke, like, you have to keep pushing.
You have to.
Otherwise, they are getting exactly what they want. By they, I mean the PPA.
And again, let's not forget that paddle tech paddle of Anna Lee has failed every MLP it's been tested at. Like, that is public knowledge. Let's be very clear about that.
Is it public knowledge, or it's just like known
Let
fact?
me rephrase. That is known fact.
Okay.
Among players.
It hasn't been published yet, but
has not been
everybody is aware of it.
Everybody is aware of that. And I've had that confirmed. So here was the kind of word soup response that I received from the USA Pickleball team. So on this text message is classic Carl Schmitz, Don Stanley, Chris. Who's Chris?
Don Pavin too. Chris Patrick.
Oh, thank you. Chris Patrick, Dylan, PPA player representative, Carl Schmitz, who tests the paddles, and
wears a USA Pickleball logo on his shirt.
Yep. So this is what they sent out to players. Any paddle used for competition must have the USA Pickleball approved seal demonstrating that this model has been lab tested for deflection, surface roughness, coefficient of friction, and dimensions. USA Pickleball is doing on-site testing for paddles to confirm surface roughness and structural integrity. Once inspected on site, a USAP inspection sticker is applied. Any paddle that has not been inspected and received a USA Pickleball serialized sticker for this event may be challenged for surface roughness or structural integrity. So note, not deflection. However, all paddles used from quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals will be inspected prior to each round. As such, any paddle that has a USAP inspection sticker cannot be challenged. So here are some like nonsensical points in this word soup. So they still are not doing on-site deflection testing, despite the fact that the PPL was present, willing to offer their services. And testing in the quarterfinals, semis, and finals, even with what little testing they have available, which is like the core crush delamination test on site, which you've seen actually done in person multiple times, as have I, and the grit testing, is really limited, right? But it's also nonsensical to be doing in the quarterfinals, semis, and finals. Like what MLP does, which makes just logical sense, it's literally just logic, is they test in the beginning. So you know that the players who are getting the quarters, semis, the finals, that they've played the same paddle. They've played a paddle the whole time that is legal and has been tested. So there's just so much about this word soup, which is literally what it is, that is sad.
Yeah. And it created a situation where, like, some players took it upon themselves to pre-test, and then you couldn't be challenged, correct? So if you, Megan got pre-tested, and then there was something about how if it came to be that you challenged a paddle and the opponents did fail, but also your partner failed because you were the one person who didn't fail, that like tie would go to your team. So like this is just getting ludicrous, and it's just so simple.
Yeah, and Carl makes it a point to text me. All paddles are lab tested for deflection during the certification process in order to receive the USA Pickleball approved seal. But that means nothing if players are playing like Anna Leigh has been allegedly doing with a hyper customized paddle. All you have to do is see her play and hear the ball from the past year coming off of her paddle to have a really clear understanding that this is not the paddle tech available for $99 on pickleballcentral.com. This is something that other players have alleged directly to the PPA Tour in numerous text messages, phone calls, email exchanges, in-person meetings, that she is playing with something that has been customized, which is against all rules. It's against USA Pickleball rules. They have a rule, 21BC3, whatever that number is that Leia sent us. So that's really, I think, the Lance Armstrong moment in the sport that we're about to see.
Yeah, if you guys aren't aware, Lance Armstrong was quote unquote passing all these tests for years while he was winning Tour de France's. I think he won 7. Subsequently, someone finally decided to stop protecting him. And that's when all of the, kind of scandal broke loose, and they stripped him of all his titles. Yeah. And it sounds a little bit like we're heading in that direction, because it's like people are covering for people who are not playing with legit equipment.
Yeah. And I think it's hard. I had a fan, a listener reach out and say, why are you not filing a class action lawsuit? Because, sports is zero sum. When Anna Leigh makes it to a final or wins an event, that means other people lost, right? Like, I have now had this paddle issue prevent me from a semifinal in Newport with Sarah Ansbury, whose paddle was mysteriously destroyed, and more on that later, and a quarterfinal and maybe even a semifinal in Vegas by Irina's crazy paddle tech paddle. So that's damages. That's time, money spent traveling to events. It's points that I know I wasn't able to accrue, and it's not me, it's other players. So the question was, well, why not put together this, class action lawsuit, get, the hundreds of players who've kind of been unable to benefit as others have who've played illegal equipment. And my answer to that is, well, there's like no rules. Like, what rules have been broken? You know what I mean? There's just favoritism, protectionism, and shadiness. But
yeah,
there's no clear rules about this other than really the USAP rule, which is you cannot make custom modifications to a paddle. So if that proof was ever able to surface, that's what we need.
It'd be one thing if every event they like collected your paddle and saved it in an evidence locker. But at this point, like, no one can really say what anyone played with in the past, other than specific paddles that have gone through the testing, like Tyson's, or like apparently Emily Ackerman and Sarah Ansbury.
What does it say about Irina Tereshchenko that she is the only player who has not voluntarily given up their paddle for testing, for further testing, and plays the same paddle as Anna Leigh?
And just for review, after Sarah Ansbury's paddle failed, they begged her to keep it and said we would give it back.
Who's they?
PPA.
PPA begged her to keep it?
Begged her to let them keep it, even though it's in Sarah's hand. And Sarah said, okay, just make sure you send it to me when you're done with it. And it mysteriously disappeared. So,
which I had later confirmed by a former PPA employee that he was told to make it disappear. And I have that in writing.
So it's just like the shadiness is endless and limitless.
But here's poor Sarah Ansbury voluntarily giving up her paddle, being told you're going to get this back. Gamma begged her not to, because they knew they were never going to get it back. And here's Irina, the only player who's ever said no to relinquishing a paddle for a lab test. So you have Emily Ackerman, Salome Davidze, Tyson McGuffin. I'm missing one player. Krista, my former MLP partner, Krista Getcheva, right? All that whole Utah tournament. Yeah. Everyone voluntarily relinquished their paddle for lab testing.
So, yeah, I mean, do you want to get into what Carl Schmitt's test looks like and what sometimes it looks like?
Yeah, and I think first though, I want to say I think the big issue here is you can hear Tom Dundon speak about this yesterday in on Amazon Prime. They interviewed him on the new Pickleball TV, and they said, you know, what does it take to make this sport, take the sport to the next level? He goes, stars. We need stars. We need to keep making our stars even more famous. So it is no secret that they, Tom, Connor, the PPA, really believe in we've got to make, you know, Annalee and Ben household names. Like these are our stars, but their stars are really problematic, especially Annalee with this paddle stuff. But this is the favoritism and the protectionism that we're seeing right now that I think that's going to come home to roost.
I mean, it's to me still, I mean, I guess it's just the altruistic craziness in me that I'm like, how is this not very simply like, hey, Annalee, like your time for playing this crazy paddle has ended. You need to go back to playing a normal paddle. Like it's been fun, it's been real fun. But let's go ahead and just put a real paddle in your hands again.
Starting January 1st, if and when the PPA and MLP have this new code, this new entity, and they adopt hopefully PPL testing, it'll be fascinating to see what paddle is she playing with, and is she winning tournaments?
Yeah, yeah.
And
look, I still believe she will be dominant with a cardboard box. I do. I just won't look quite the same.
But Leia talks about these third set losses, these losses in the finals that she's had against Annalee, and like the depression that puts on a person, the pain of that, and like that sucks for Leia, because I really do think starting January 1st with this new entity, the testing standards are going to be unified, and we're going to see more and more people beating AL.
Yeah. I mean, my dad always theorized that David Duval was like the brunt of the Tiger Woods dominance, and it like did cause mental anguish, and he like disappeared. It wasn't like he was always top 10 for his whole career.
Dude, I have mental anguish from Vegas still. Like playing with Tyra and having her be like, I'm scared to be on this court. This is crazy. I don't want to be here. I'm scared for my health. I'm scared for my eyes. I'm scared for my safety. And here we were like, totally deprived of an opportunity because Irina's playing some freaking illegal paddle. It's crazy.
Yeah. So.
And here poor Leia's been dealing with it all year in singles.
Totally. I think we covered the paddle.
So do you want to talk about the testing that you witnessed and experienced from Carl, the on-site PPA USAP testing?
Yeah. Originally, after Sarah's and your incident, the first time anyone was ever penalized, and last time anyone's ever been penalized, as far as I know, for an illegal paddle, I was very curious. And Carl seemingly was very open. He has always been like letting people watch him do the test, showing people the scanners. And after the Irina challenge, we were still in the testing room when Annalee came huffing and puffing, rushed in to get her paddles tested. And I literally watched him half-ass it. Like, I watched the thoroughness of his test, and it was like, 1, 2, okay. It literally looked like...
Yeah, it took like 7 seconds.
3-year-old borrowing daddy's stethoscope.
It's fine. Whatever. It does. Because it doesn't matter. He wasn't going to fail it anyway.
Yeah. It's like, obviously, this is just my, random watching of one test, but it definitely
it's your personal
felt
experience.
Like a very different experience than what I had watched the 10 minutes prior with the other paddles he tested.
So we don't mean to beat the paddle issue to absolute death.
We did, though. We did.
We did.
We did anyway. But let's get into the biggest losers and winners.
So we have a new pod segment called Biggest Winners and Losers, because we realized there were some really big winners and really big losers from nationals. And then we realized we should just like do that on every pod.
Totally. I'm excited for this section. I can't wait to write the intro song.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So let's start with some winners.
Winners and losers.
Or do you want to go winner, loser, winner, loser?
I think we can do some winner, loser.
All right. So here's a huge winner from nationals. Scott Fliegelman. Scott Fliegelman was my mixed split age partner. He is a fantastic coach, owner of Boulder Pickleball Club in Boulder, Colorado. He has a podcast, a really great podcast called From 4-0 to Pro. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend you check it out. So we dominated, in mixed split pro. We had a death battle against Julie Johnson and Federico Staksrud. More on that later. And then we lost to Ava Welsher and Rafa Hewitt. And then right after that, Scott just won. He pulled out. He pulled out of his next 2 events. He got on a plane and he freaking left nationals. That man is
Smartest man
brilliant.
in the room.
They scheduled him to
Smartest
play
man out of the room.
out of the room. So they had scheduled Scott to play Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday.
True story. Great schedule. Great schedule. I'm so sorry to all the senior pros who I spoke to plenty of. And pretty much everyone I spoke to at Nationals was basically of the same mind. Never again.
So Scott, you crushed it, buddy. You left.
Yes. Other winners, Meg and Kathy. I mean, they always put on the best show at Nationals. The cheering section.
They're
the
super
cutout
fans
heads
of pickleball.
and the dance moves. So great. I had such a good chat getting to know them a little bit.
They're awesome. They're so welcoming, so fun, just happy, awesome people. Meg and Kathy, it was a pleasure to meet you. I hope one day to have a cutout of my own face waving in the
when
crowd.
you know you've made it in pickleball. But yeah, they were there till midnight. I mean, these matches were going into the wee hours of the night, and they were there.
Speaking of super fans, thank you to Ron and Wendy for making us beautiful custom keychains with our names on them. We love you guys.
They're so cute.
Who else won, Kristin?
Well, the volunteers won. They got some sweet shirts this year. It was like a dusty rose, like dry fit long sleeve.
It was really nice.
I was like, this is actually something I can see a lot of people wearing all year.
Did they kind of lose when the temperature went from 50 to 88 back to like 44 and it was raining?
Definitely not an ideal volunteer situation at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. Winner, Anna Lee Waters. She won not 1, not 2, but 3 parking spaces in the front row for her 57-foot RV. Thanks for playing.
It was more than a triple crown. It was a triple spot. I just want to know, did you get the $200,000 RV on Carvana?
Is there a vending machine big enough for that thing? I'd love to see it.
How come there's been no commercial of her picking it up?
Who drives? Who drives that thing?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. And yeah, the food. I mean, we talked about the food. Dallas food did not disappoint. Thank you to Mark.
Not the venue food, but the outside the venue.
I still was
food.
never able to find food at the venue
or
bathrooms.
I've never seen an event with so many Uber Eats deliveries.
I know, that was unreal. Thank you to Mark Lemke from Ruck Solar Packs for an incredible meal out at Albert's. The T is silent, people. The T is silent.
Was it Albert's?
Albert's.
Oh.
Albernays.
Albernays. Okay. I was like, was it auberge? I remember it sounding French.
I speak 3 languages. French is not one of them.
Albernays. Okay, we got there.
And here's a huge winner at Nationals. This is unexpected. Okay, guys? The bathrooms. Why, Kristin, did the bathrooms win at Nationals?
That's a good question. I actually don't know where you're going with this.
Okay. Well, the bathrooms won because there were none. So they didn't have to work.
Did they really just have 0 bathrooms? Were people just digging holes and, covering their tracks? Like a kitty cat?
Still don't know where the bathrooms were at Nationals. We pro players had them. I heard from multiple amateurs that it was not easy to find them and they were in high demand.
So, biggest losers. The players.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if you have this in here. Yeah, I'll save that part for later. But to start with, we were told that the testing protocols were going to cross over, and they did not.
They did not.
But
Ben did lose to a gearbox, so look for that to either banned or go through some hyper special testing, like poor Pro XR had to, and Carbon, and any other paddle company that is not paying the PPA. So look for that ASAP, guys.
Yeah, I'm shocked I haven't heard anything already. So that's definitely, it's going to be mentioned.
And the amateurs definitely lost.
They did. I mean, like I said, I talked to multiple people who finished at like midnight or 1 a.m. The bathrooms were nowhere to be found. The venue was crammed. Like you couldn't even like walk with more than 2 people side by side through the dark
viewing, like the
tunnels.
Yeah. Wait
And
times of 3+ hours in between matches were reported, and this was on good weather days. When the weather turned sour, games were turned into best of 15, one game instead of the 2 out of 3 to 11.
yeah, so imagine this. You spend hundreds of dollars on your entry fee, thousands of dollars on your Airbnb and your ticket, and you show up and play one game to 11,
I think
one
it's
game to
15.
15,
Yeah.
and one game to 11.
But
and you
hey,
go
there
home.
were drone shows and $10,000 a night bands who played in the rain to emptiness, to nobody there. Sidebar, side note, I didn't know bands could perform in the rain. Like, isn't there an electrical issue?
Yeah, there is like a threshold, kind of like airplanes, where like sometimes the weather is bad enough for them to stop and sometimes not.
If you don't follow memes of pickleball on Instagram, I highly recommend it. They actually did a really funny story on this. They said, players, please give us bathrooms. PPA response, here's a drone show.
Oh my
I think nationals, this event is an exemplification that the only person with any real like creativity in the sport is Steve Kuhn. Like, this event was touted as the future of pickleball, the most fun event of pickleball, yet they're playing this Franklin X40 ball that, like, I was stuck at 0-2 against Federico Staxrud and Julie Johnson and with Scott Fliegelman for 30 minutes. Okay, like, let's really think about that. 0-2
literally,
for
I was
30
lost. I was like going from one end of the venue to the other to try and find Jill. I see her, still have to walk all the way back, and by the time I get there, I'm like, oh, it's 1-0. I haven't missed anything.
Yeah, you've missed nothing. And so we are doing this progressive draw, similar to tennis, a sport that hasn't seen an innovation in 102 years since its inception. So, like, is this the forward thinkingness of nationals, of USA Pickleball, of the PPA
Yeah,
Tour,
just so you
an
understand.
X40 ball and progressive draw emulating tennis and pro matches starting at 11 p.m.? Like,
So weird.
what was this?
Yeah, and they didn't even really schedule it. Everything was just like 10 a.m. followed by. So you're like,
So
okay, so that
weird.
could take an hour or could take 3. That could take an hour or could take 3. Multiply that by 8 matches. Okay, so it's either going to be 5 p.m. or 11 p.m. But just so everyone knows, a progressive draw means that instead of playing all of mixed doubles in one day and then the next day all of gendered doubles, you play one singles, one mixed, one gender. Basically, you have to shift gears a little bit like MLP, where you're playing gendered, mixed, and hypothetically a dream breaker. You're playing singles, mixed, and then gendered. So players like Christian Alshon are playing all 3, or Connor Garnett. Some people are just playing 2. So it sounds kind of fun and kind of different, but they made this huge mistake where they also did 5-game matches.
3 out of 5. Oh my
with
God.
a Franklin. So you take one thing where you're like, okay, it's a little unpredictable. Then you add 5 sets, 5 games. So now it's going to take forever. And you add a Franklin ball where everything is coming back because it's softer, so it doesn't move like a Dura where the point is over. It's like, oh, they got that one. Oh, they got that one again. So these games were literally 2 hours long.
It was 2 hours longer. It was wild.
Yeah, I wonder what the longest was.
So look, the draw, the weather, and the worst ball in pickleball caused pros to quite literally lose their minds. Allegedly, AJ Kohler grabbed Federico Staxrud by the shirt, prompting Federico Staxrud to file a police report, which subsequently created a disqualification of AJ Kohler, followed by an altered Instagram post from pickleball.com that claimed AJ elected to withdraw after it said he was disqualified for a physical altercation against another player. So yeah, there's no favoritism or protectionism on the PPA Tour. There's no altered Instagram post. Yeah, I mean, I've had more physical altercations on a court than a shirt grab, for sure. I mean, Michelle Esquivel hit me in the visor once with her hand.
Didn't stop Michelle from trying to get you kicked out of the venue because she felt threatened.
She felt
After
threatened
she
as
hit
she
you,
hit me in the
she
face.
felt threatened. Really interesting spin of events.
Well, I've always said I want pickleball to feel more like hockey. I just didn't know AJ Kohler was going to take that literally.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love it all. Like, as a viewer, you want the drama, but like sometimes you just wonder, are we pickleball? Like, is pickleball going to become a joke because of all this? I don't know. It already is. We're in on it. But in case anyone was wondering, AJ stands for Alois Julius
Kohler the fourth?
the fourth. Yeah, which, when you start with a name like Alois, you're like, okay, how many generations back are we going here?
That's amazing.
But I can't believe he didn't just embrace the Julius. Like, that's
I
such
would
a
go
cool
by
name.
Julius.
AJ, who doesn't know an AJ but Julius? I know that guy.
I would say let's
I
name
wanna know that
our
guy.
future child Julius, but more likely would be a future cat.
That's absolutely going to happen. Episode 433, the Julius cat.
So I think we've got another loser, or maybe this is a winner. The PPA staff. I received this text message from the PPA. Dear players, playing professional pickleball is an honor and something that should not be taken lightly. Our staff works tirelessly to ensure that you have the best experience possible. We understand you may have frustrations at times. I told you the ball drove everyone crazy. But taking them out on our employees is entirely unacceptable. Moving forward, see, the PPA can move fast when they want to move fast. Here's what they can move fast on. The PPA will have a zero tolerance policy for disrespect to our staff. Should you decide to belittle, name call, or disrespect any member of our staff in any way whatsoever, you will be subject to immediate removal from our event, suspended from future events, fined, and potentially banned depending on the severity of the incident. We know this does not apply to the majority of you, but we want to make it clear that we support our employees because it is our employees that help you do what you want to do, which is play pickleball at the highest level. I'm always available if anyone has any questions. We want everyone to have a great experience here and are looking forward to growing this thing together. Good luck this week, Chris Patrick.
Any questions as long as that question does not involve paddle testing. In which case, crickets. Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that was the AJ thing. I don't know if that was something else. I never heard who threatened who of the staff. But look, in all seriousness, I do respect staff. I respect
100%.
The refs. I think players that are rude to either or both of those do deserve punishment or fines. But
drives me crazy. So there are so many pro players who are super disrespectful to not just staff but referees, like you said, and I hate that. I just freaking hate that.
All right, the real biggest winner of the week. Drum roll, please. All of you who stayed home and didn't play nationals. We're talking to you, Chris Anderson, Leah Jansen, Zane Navratil,
guys,
and everyone else who did not go to nationals. Congratulations. You won a week of your life back. You got to play pickleball with anyone you wanted, with whatever ball you chose, however many times you like.
Oh my gosh, this is so true. It's sad.
So anyway, this segment brought to you by Beamer. Curing all your ailments. No questions asked. We used the Beamer all week. And by we, I mean you. I need to get more Beamer time.
That's true. Actually, for anyone that does travel to events, I'm able to pack my Beamer in a little square carrying case that we could carry on the plane. I use Beamer on the plane. Yeah. And this is just killer for when you get to the event, you're a little sore, you flew on an airplane, you've got all this like
build up
in you.
You need to get the blood flowing. And blood flow is the cure to everything. Literally.
So I travel with the Beamer and it's this super simple sleeve. I wrap it around my elbow, my Achilles, my calf, my hamstring.
Sometimes even on the airplane.
Use it on the airplane.
Yeah.
And again, this is a device that's working at the cellular level, literally helping increase blood flow. So if you're interested in Beamer, anyone that comes through our podcast receives a free carrying case for it, which is super cool. It is an awesome device that we can't more highly recommend.
Absolutely. I mean, as evidence, I don't think we've ever witnessed you playing 10 days straight competitive pickleball or like pro level training.
No issues.
I think that speaks volumes because a year ago, I don't think that was possible for your body.
A lot of that's Beamer. So if you're interested in learning more, you can email thispblife@gmail.com. And then I think we were going to touch on this earlier and we didn't. I was supposed to play against Lauren Stratman and Vivian Glozman with Tyra Black, and about 30 seconds before the match, we got assigned a court. Lauren was there, Vivian was there. We were literally walking out to the court. Tyra was just like, I just don't think I can do this. I'm really nauseous. I've been sick since MLP Atlanta. A lot of other players have had something too since that last MLP Atlanta event. And she just said, I'm really nauseous. Like the thought of moving my body right now and running around, like I think I'm gonna be sick on the court. She had 2 5-game in a row mixed matches. Again,
2 days in a row.
2 days in a row, both 5-setters, I think. Those are long matches. They're a grind. You've got that Franklin ball 3 out of 5. So I'm bummed because I think, I was really excited to play Lauren and Vivian, 2 awesome players. I got to play them in practice actually that night that we were supposed to play the match, but when Tyra withdrew. And Vivian Closeman hits the ball so hard. I didn't know how hard she hits it.
Who was your sub for Tyra in that practice match?
Nick, Maggie Brosh's boyfriend.
Subbed in perfectly for Tyra. 6 foot tall dude.
So that was a bummer. And again, that might be my very last event of the year because we're hearing rumors that MLP San Clemente is about 50% chance of being canceled. So that was another kind of negative of Nationals, which is ending on that note with Tyra. And I hope she's doing better. So yeah, that was a bummer to end Nationals and potentially my last event of the year like that. And as we said, MLP San Clemente is really 50-50 right now.
A lot of people were reaching out wondering what happened to you. So
everyone assumed it was me.
Yeah, they're like, well, Tyra played mixed right before that, and she played mixed the next day. So obviously it must be Jill.
No, Jill's got a beamer. She's healthy as
Jill's ready to go. She's got her beanie on. She's got 4 layers. She's ready to play in the 50 degrees
like 7
indoor.
hours early warming up.
It was the weirdest thing. I was like, I guess let's just treat it like, we're playing the US Open tennis and you have a 7 p.m. match that might go on at 11 p.m. And so Jill kind of rested, took it easy all morning. And then at 5 p.m. was like, okay, I'm ready to dial in the rainstorm.
And I crushed
a whole can, which normally you'll drink as little as a quarter or a half a can.
No, I crushed it.
Because
I knew we'd be playing till 11 at night.
You're an energetic person, but we go to bed at 8:30. So
correct.
You were starting 2 hours into our REM cycle with this theoretical match that never happened. And so Jill was like, I don't know how I'm going to get to sleep. I need to play at least 6 more games so I can sweat it out. So luckily we had a few friends nearby at the venue to play a few practice games with. But
did get to
very
sleep.
Anticlimactic.
Did get to sleep, did wake up at 4 a.m. But hey, I thought I was going to be up all night wired.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this pod, you think that we are absolutely negative on all things Dallas minus the food.
That's correct.
But I will say there are some other positives that came out of this week.
Oh, yeah.
One was something we kind of talked about on the last pod, in which I'm finally confident that I have something to contribute to Jill more literally, and I'm going to actually consider myself a coach on the bench, not just a banana holder from here on out.
That was a big step for us, seriously.
I think it's true. No one knows you like I do, and everything I'm telling you is basically just things you've told me over the years. So it's really
that you
just
forget
a mirror.
In competition. Yeah,
and it's true. We all forget these things, and there's a reason the phrase "those who can't do teach" exists.
When you are a fantastic teacher, born instructor.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be someone that we both trust in. Yeah. And I know that sounds like a weird phrase, but I have to trust that what I'm saying is important and is good, and I have to trust that you trust that I'm here for a reason. So excited about that. Also, I feel like you figured some things out about a couple parts of your game that had been sort of nagging. They weren't total weaknesses, but it was you unlocked a new level.
Totally.
You got to hang out with Fleegs. You got to hang out with Georgia, and Gabe had some super fun practice matches with the teens from South Florida. And I think we definitely have some positives to walk away from.
No, there's a lot of positives for sure.
Pickleball is still joy. It was just sort of a laughing matter in a lot of ways. So I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression about our attitudes.
Oh no, we're leaving with a super positive attitude.
Yeah, and whether San Clemente happens or not, I feel like you're in a better position than ever going into 2024, and it's just everyone's just really excited to see what's going to happen with MLP and having more MLP involvement directly in the PPA. I think is currently where we're heading. So hopefully that all happens.
I think that's well said. So we have a by the numbers.
By the numbers. By the numbers.
We've heard that over 100 paddles failed at MLP Dallas. This is not confirmed. Okay. When I've released paddle failure numbers in the past, those have been confirmed.
But here's a rough estimate of what you can do. Figure out how many YOLA players there
and
are.
Selkirk
Multiply
players.
that by at least 7.
Yeah.
Because I did see almost every YOLA player holding 7 to 10 paddles.
Well said.
So that a rough estimate right there is like 100.
Yeah, there's your 100 paddles.
Not to mention
the double
carbon.
O2s.
I heard someone who failed 12 paddles.
Oh, that's right.
I think there was one other company. Oh, Selkirk.
Yep.
So like the 3 very popular paddle
So what
companies
I've
are
heard
having
is
a lot of failures. So
by the
that's
numbers,
a safe number.
102 paddles. Again, non-confirmed. And then how about this for by the numbers? 0 failures at Nationals.
I did hear of one person threatening to maybe challenge Gabe Tardio's paddle. I'm not sure if that actually ended up happening, but a lot of it had to do with our podcast coming out and people realizing these rules aren't even written. So what am I even doing?
Again, if those numbers 102 to 0 don't tell you that there is something really, really, really wrong in our
strange
sport right now,
afoot.
something strange is afoot.
But yeah, just as a rewind, the very first time they did testing and told everyone, like, we're just testing to test and we want to understand more, Daytona MLP, which was March, 6 paddles came out as failing or would have failed outside their parameter.
I think it was 8.
And then San Clemente was 9.
Oh, okay.
Then Atlanta
Yeah,
was 27.
Yes, you're right.
And
you're right.
then at least 102, we think, maybe more.
Maybe more.
Coming out of this week's
Definitely
Dallas
2
MLP.
paddle techs. At least.
2 paddle techs and 97
Yolas.
Yolas. So, yeah, I think what this is evidence of is they drew a line and they told people the line was, I think, 40, whatever, 50 you know, what was with the pounds of deflection. And so all the manufacturers since Daytona were like, aye, here you go. Here's a 49er or a 51er. I don't even know which side of it you're supposed to be on. But it's like all these paddle manufacturers are trying to get as close to the line as possible because they drew one in the sand.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've told you this, but some of the paddles come out, they're right at 50, right? They're right at the number, and then obviously you play it, and that's a degradation that goes down to 49, 48, so that they become illegal. A lot of the paddles come in at like 60, but instantly degrade to like 45, like within one play. So it's interesting, and I'm glad that testing exists.
Yeah, just keep pushing. Just got to keep poking the bear.
So let's talk a little bit about New York Hustlers, and then we have a dear JILLYB that you are not gonna want to miss. But first, quick break from Ruck Packs. Ruck Solar Packs. Do you have someone in your life who's impossible to shop for? The Ruck Solar Pack is definitely our favorite pickleball bag. It's also sleek, fits your laptop, your paddles, and it has a solar panel to charge all devices.
Like, a solar panel, like
cool
who comes up with that? That is the coolest idea ever. It literally charges your devices from the solar pack while you're playing pickleball. I mean, does it get better than that? I don't think so.
You can visit ruckpack.com. That's RUKPACK.com. You can use code JILLYB for 15% off your next order.
RUKPACK.com and use code JILLYB for 15% off on your next order.
All right, we are back. And as a friendly reminder, Christmas is right around the corner. Do you know what to get your best friends, your spouse, your family members who love pickleball? Go to pbgods.com. That's right. Kristin founded pbgods.com. It is all of the hilarity of what goes on in her mind and sometimes my mind, but on retail products. So PKL girl, her hat, why dink when you could speed up a low bounce into the net and lose the point sweatshirt? There is all sorts of funny, affordable goods that you can grab for Christmas for your better half, your friends. Check out. Or yourself. Get yourself a gift. Check out pbgods.com. And as a quick reminder, Hot pink paddle, yeah, your spouse is definitely gonna want that. Check out GRÜVN.co for the JILLYB signature 13 millimeter thermoformed, one of the most affordable thermoformed paddles on the market. Gritty as heck with that unibody foam injected construction, so you're gonna hit that paddle very, very hard. I have been loving it. Use code JILLYB, and you can get that for $161. Again, one of the most affordable, highest quality paddles you will find in existence right now.
Yeah, we did forget to mention in our catching up that we finished our Christmas shopping yesterday.
Crushed it.
We are on it.
Crushed it.
So proud. I always find when I go Christmas shopping that I keep finding stuff I want to buy and not anything for anyone I'm shopping for. Am I the only one that has that problem?
So we have a really important Dear JILLYB. This is from Sarah in San Diego. Dear JILLYB, I have been struggling, call it the yips, with my returns. You've talked a lot about how to fix serves on your podcast, on your Instagram. Can you please talk about the return? So the number one mistake I see is smoking in the lobby on returns. So this is, yep.
I don't think you can smoke in lobbies anymore. Smoking 20 feet from the front entrance on a cold bench.
Look, we have all been guilty of lighting up a cigarette in the lobby while returning the ball.
Metaphorically.
So what that means is after you return your serve, you're doing three things. You're leaning back, then you're waiting, and then you're watching. Then you go to the net instead of leaning forward, connecting not just with the ball on the center of your paddle face, but a target. Really connect with a target. You and I talk about this all the time.
Absolutely.
Golf, and you actually helped me work on my returns at MLP in Dallas, saying, Jill, just really connect with a target. So lean forward, connect with the center of your face and connect with the target, and then explode to the line. Sarah Ansbury gave me a great piece of advice. She said, push off of your right leg right at impact with your return. I teach run through your returns, move forward. So a lot of instructors will go, oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's technically not right. Well, guess what? When you give someone the advice of run through your return, when their habit is to fall backwards, what does it create? It actually creates neutral. So I don't mind anyone feeling like they're really pushing forward and running through that return, pushing off that right leg. So I think if you can do that and really just connect with that target, it'll help anybody improve their returns.
So one thing I think that golf is the worst about is that over technical instruction. And what you hit on is something I actually really try and hammer home in golf instruction for that same reason, that focusing on your target is like cheating. It's like the free cheat code to every athletic motion.
Yep.
It can't be overdone and you can't like come back to it enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it clears the head because a lot of times the reason that we get all discombobulated physically is that our mind is bouncing to 800 different places. So just focusing on your target is the easiest way to quiet your mind and eye.
Are all sports the same? Because last night we went out on the golf course for the first time in like 7 months and I was like, oh,
for you.
For me. And I was like, oh, my swing's the same. All I need to do is have no tension going back and going through, really focus on a target. And I'm like, wait, am I talking about my pickleball game? Like, are all sports really similar in like the sense of like, get your arms really loose, really relax, tension free, and then just hyper focus on that target?
Absolutely. I think there's slightly different angles of attack when you go from tennis to pickleball to golf, but like understanding just that is to understand all of them. So they say all learning takes place in a space where you take an old piece of knowledge and you build on it. That's why analogies are so important because you have to take like, okay, you already know this in this sport. Can we use it in this new sport or this new skill?
That was profound, K-Dubs.
The more you know.
Or you could be like my sister who says every time she learns something new, she forgets something old.
Yeah, that's just factually wrong, but par for the course for Naki. So do you want to circle back to Nationals real quick?
Sure.
Because I don't think we really covered it outside of our winners and losers. I mean, that was a pretty astute way of encapsulating the whole thing. But
yeah, absolutely. I played with Connor Garnett or as we say, CG.
Con.
And was really impressed with his game, how fast he is. He like shows up out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, weren't you just on the baseline? And now you're like covering a ball on my left foot. Like, that's so
Yeah.
impressive.
Who's faster, Jaume or Connor?
Oh, Connor's longer. You know, he's limmy, but I think maybe
True.
Jaume's faster, so it ends up
Right.
equaling out.
And what about Ben Newell?
Oh, Benny's so fast in a different way. Yeah, of like chasing balls down. But both Jaume and Connor like leap out of nowhere at the kitchen line, and then I feel my ear grazed by the whoosh of their paddle. And
Yeah.
Benny didn't do that, but no one's faster than Ben Newell from
Okay.
the back
Okay,
quarter
so that
chasing down
stands.
balls.
That stands. Okay.
And we had a really tough round against Maggie Brasha and Hayden Patriquin. We went 4, so we won the second game. And gosh, just so impressed by Hayden's game.
Yeah, Hayden's a perfect example of something you talk about often with Gabe and Georgia and Hayden and these kids
Yep.
coming up in the pickleball era
Yep.
with no other things in the way.
Right.
And they're just doing what works for pickleball.
I practiced with Georgia Johnson and Gabe Tardio, and same thing. I'm just like, oh my gosh, these 16, 17, 18-year-olds who've just been playing pickleball for the past 2 to 4 years. Like, yikes, like that is the future. In a year, are there going to be these 20, 30-year-old tennis players transitioning? And are they going to be able to make any headway? Frankly, I really don't think so. I think the future's in those kids.
I think both can be true at once.
Sure,
I think we're
sure.
just going to know the cheat codes quicker and people will adapt like immediately. It's like, okay, so welcome to pickleball. You're a tennis player. Get rid of your continental grip, face the target, like stop turning sideways and shorten
Yeah.
both of your strokes on
But,
both ends.
You know, talk about a kid raised right. Georgia Johnson, just such a sweetheart, always smiling, such joy, like really exemplifies the joy of playing. You know, will play with anyone, practice with anyone, just always laughing and just so fun to watch, like the hand speed and the shot creativity. And same with Gabe Tardio, just like really awesome kids raised the right way.
Yeah, it's always fun to see someone who knows how to smile on the court,
Totally.
as we always say. So yeah, did you have any other nationals shout outs before we put a pin in the Connor and PPA paddle testing stuff?
Maggie Brasha, yeah, I mean, takes two to win. So Hayden's partner was Maggie, and it's just so unfair because the Brasha's defense is already stellar, and then you get that X40 ball, and it's like every ball's coming back. So I really just can't
It's a different game.
overstate enough how good Maggie and Mary both are. I've always said that, always felt that way. But
As
yeah,
evidence, made it all the way to Sunday.
and then it
right?
was nice
In
to
women's.
see, you know, Hayden and Maggie after they beat Connor and I went 5 games against the Johnsons, a team I super highly respect. Actually, the only team that's beaten Ben Johns and Annalie Waters this year. So kudos to them. And I'm not surprised that they did that because of how well I thought they were playing. And then Maggie to the finals with her sister Mary. Just really impressed.
Yeah. Go SoCal.
Go SoCal.
That was the other irony is your first round was against 2 girls from California in women's, and in mixed you played Hayden and Maggie with Connor. So it was literally just a regular Saturday at Los Cab
That's
at
funny.
Nationals.
Got a lot more trash talking.
Speaking of
Thought Hayden and I were going to kill each other at one point.
Speaking of Southern California, I was telling every single person who would listen to me how sad I was that we nearly had 2 home events and instead we were in Dallas for 10 days. But if you don't already realize, Indian Wells is across the street from our house where they have hosted nationals for the last 5 years. And I think the only person that could have possibly come away from nationals last week and been like, yay, that was fun, is someone who has never been before.
To Indian Wells.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I couldn't find a single person who had been to Indian Wells who wasn't of the mind that I would never play nationals again until it comes back or it goes somewhere else. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do to try and change that sentiment. But
If people are
there's a lot.
interested in why it moved and kind of the background there and where it might go in the future, I'm happy to talk about that on the next pod because I think we've talked a lot about nationals on this one. So maybe in the YouTube comments or email us and tell us that's
Yeah.
something you want us to dive a little bit more deep into because I do have that information.
So paddle testing, We've had so many different conversations, but we've had an ongoing conversation with Leia and a lot of obvious support that came from the last pod. But you had something you wanted to add about basically actions, inactions speaking louder than words, and then the words that do come when it comes to the PPA. One of the things Leia is staunch about is that there is a written USAP rule, which we talked about last pod, about not customizing anything that has once been approved. You can't change the paddle after it's been approved.
Yeah, we're all not running around playing custom-made paddles, to be clear.
And Connor literally told Leia, "Oh, everyone's doing it."
So that was his defense of why he hasn't stopped Annalee all year long from using that paddle is, well, everyone's doing it. That was like the CEO's response to Leia.
That's like the bad excuse equivalent of like the inappropriate show me your papers comment or something. Like there's no world where everyone breaking a rule exempts you from trying to enforce
the rules on your tour.
So another kind of known entity is that there was a point where it was pretty widely talked about that Thomas Wilson was being punished for having a delambed carbon, and he openly was basically saying, well, why do I have to stop playing it, but Annalee gets to keep playing hers?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been numerous players who have complained directly to Connor in writing, in person, about Annalee's paddle. And it seems like, according to Leia, his response is simply either everyone's doing customizations or we'll look into it, and then nothing ever gets looked into. But again, if it's banning carbon on a whim, he can do that, and they'll do that. If it's mandatory extensive testing on Pro XR paddles randomly, he'll do that.
Yeah.
Like it's just the favoritism is so blatant. It is so painful.
And again, it's like...
And so unnecessary.
Creating stars does not have to be sacrificed by enforcing correct paddles.
Creating stars doesn't mean you have to create cheaters.
Exactly.
So there's this quote by Andy Anders. It's my favorite quote. Have I ever told you this? I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I know so many of your quotes, but I don't think I know this one.
Okay. First you make a choice, then the choice makes you.
Makes you.
That is what is going to happen to Annalee Waters, and that is what is going to happen at the PPA. Mark my words. First you make a choice, then the choice makes you.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
She currently is going by your other favorite quote. She believed she could, so she did.
That is a great quote, C.S. Lewis, but used in the wrong context here.
A little bit of liberty there. But there is a former employee from the PPA who has told us that they will be on a pod coming very soon, and they have no non-compete and no NDA in their contract, and have been staying mostly silent. But we will soon, not necessarily on our pod, but maybe be hearing from this former employee. And they told Leia that the underbelly gets so much worse if we keep digging in regards to the PPA.
Well, I hope that they go on the pod and release a bombshell episode, because they don't have a non-disparagement, they don't have an NDA, they don't have a non-solicit, they don't have a separation agreement. I know who this person is, and they should do it.
Yeah.
I hope they do. I hope they have the courage to do it, as a lot of other people and podcasts are doing this week. I think thanks in huge part to Leia, you, Kristin, with your amazing editing skills and helping us put all this together. And I have hopefully opened the floodgates to enable players, sponsors, fans, everyone to stand up and demand fairness. Yeah. And it seems like there's been a lot of other pods this week that have released who have talked about this exact topic. And it's interesting because apparently there was a pod recorded by two guys, and they took it down or didn't release it because they were told by Connor Pardo is too damning and not to do it. And what I'm so proud about what we do is we don't sling mud. We could sling so much mud if we wanted to in retaliation of what people say about me, what people say about you. But we're independent. We're not in the pocket of anyone or any entity. Yes, we have sponsors, and you know that. You know that because you listen to the pod. But we are never changing our content and jeopardizing our truth for anyone ever, under any circumstances. And that is one thing I want to say I'm really proud about. And I think we should read some of the comments from other pods that have come out this week, and then also some of our YouTube comments.
Yeah, no, I don't have comments from other pods. Do you?
I do, in terms of the Tennis Sucks pod and what Travis said.
Yeah. Oh, like in the pod. Yeah. So Travis is on Tennis Sucks, which is now under the umbrella of the Dink pod, or the Dink YouTube page. So check that out, because you can hear another person basically echoing, but another person's perspective, all the things.
I respect Travis a lot.
About, and he talks about you and Leia specifically numerous times. But some other shout outs. Thank you to all the 157 of you at the time of this recording who commented on last week's pod.
And over 10,000 listeners. Yeah.
And there is really a sentiment that the internet is kind of a cesspool of negativity. And it's really nice when you see an outcry of support. And I read a lot of the comments on our pod, and I am usually perusing comments on other pods, and it seems like our audience is just smart.
I do have the smartest audience.
I read some really ignorant stuff on other people's pods, so I don't know what we've done right, but keep sharing with your smart friends, because it's working. I really love how eloquent our comments have been, and so I wanted to shout out our PB lifers, and specifically Craig Cable, who made the point that an old business tactic that has been used since the day of the Romans is to make sure at least one person from the problem is not present, so you have a reason not to answer any questions fully. Connor made it himself to make sure his workers are not thrown under the bus and feel like they're being protected. Good boss, bad manager.
Well said.
Robert Harless 3304 said, "This is a prime example of why pro pickleball is a complete joke. I love how Jill and Leia are outspoken. PPA stands for Pure Poop Show Association. Would love to have your paddle." We're going to announce the winners to the paddle real soon. And from Wayne, "Jilly and Leia, thank you," in all caps, "so much for not letting this Irina Terashenko paddle tech paddle issue die. In my opinion, the episode exposes the PPA, quote, leadership, and how it protects the key players and vendors. I am no longer an Irina fan, hashtag cheater, angry emoji, and lost a lot of respect for the PPA, lack of leadership and integrity, hashtag shameful.
Thanks, Wayne.
Keep fighting the good fight, and keep grooving." Sleeves Pickleball Report says, "It's refreshing to hear all these women speak truth to power rather than the standard company boys who cancel their podcast episodes per PPA. Connor Poto requests." So,
and that's what we kept hearing about. Yeah. Right. Interesting. Thank you for that comment.
Yeah. I also wanted to shout out some of the fans that we met at the venue, specifically V and John, who we had like a 10-minute conversation with at MLP, at the end of which they were like, "Oh, by the way, we're also Alex Trong's parents."
Yeah. You should have led with that. We love your daughter.
Yes. So, yeah. Anything else to add before our closing?
No, I think what Travis said on his pod was, my opinion is that they have such a tie to Anna Lee. They're going to do absolutely anything to protect her. She's super marketable for them. So they're not going to do anything that would minimize her ability to win. I think what Jill and Leia are trying to point out, that the PPA will just lie to your face. So I think that's what Travis was touching on.
Yeah.
But no, thank you again so much for the outpouring of support and all the positive comments. And we're hoping really soon that we never have to mention paddle testing ever again on a podcast. Like, trust me, like we're also fatigued by all of this, but frankly, that's what the PPA wants you to do. They want you to get fatigued, and they want you to give up.
Well, I don't know, like the steroid thing in baseball lasted forever, and you still kind of have to talk about it because there's always someone trying to get around it.
Well, yeah, this is our wooden bat era.
So last week, you all said you want it. And we got it for you. Our winner of the GRÜVN Movin' 13X JILLYB Edition Pink Edgeguard Paddle is none other than Maddie Slice, aka Matt Birch. Congratulations. And I checked out some of your outdoor life videos. Really love your editing skills. Nice. Mad props. And I would assume your pickleball game is to the exact same impressive level. So congrats to Maddie.
And we're shipping this today, and San Diego is very close. So Maddie, you are going to be playing that paddle perhaps tomorrow, definitely this weekend.
And yeah, don't forget to head over to GRÜVN.co. If you want to get your hands on a JILLYB paddle, use that code JILLYB. It is one of the best deals in pickleball. After the code, it brings that paddle all the way down to $161. So don't delay. The holidays are upon us. Get 3. So, as we all know, pickleball is joy. And I do want to mention, we talked about PB Gods earlier in this episode, but I did just release an entire joy collection. So very soon you will be seeing us on the pod wearing Pickleball is Joy on our heads and shirts. So check that out. And don't forget to use code PBLifers for 10% off your entire order at pbgods.com. I really personally enjoy this side gig project and would always love your feedback and requests. Yeah, get your JILLYB collection, get your PB Gods. And
thank you so much to our listeners, for our super intelligent listeners, super intelligent audience, all of your comments. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for coming up to us at Nationals, and pickleball is joy.
Don't let anyone tell you differently.
We out.
This Pickleball Life is a Tomahawk production, 100% organic, self-made, and homegrown. Music by K-Dubs, editing by K-Dubs and JILLYB. Check out pbgods.com and use code PBLifers for 10% off your next order. Do you have a question for JILLYB? Email us at thispblife@gmail.com to be included in future episodes. Don't forget to click subscribe.
This Pickleball Life.